Here's another article that I tried to put in your notes, but I couldn't open it. So I did find a way to bring it up on my computer. And this is the first page from Bloomberg.com, Kaplan's Warcraft Dragon Hunt aids college quest. And so if you kind of skim through this, you see that they're using manga to help kids brush up on their preparation for SATs and ACTs. And you've got a paragraph down near the bottom where an honor student says it's better than studying with flashcards. So they are capitalizing on the fact that kids are buying these things and using them for a good tool. Remembering our definition for adolescent lit, it's literature that is written for and marketed to young adults. And so graphic novels, they're thinking about, in the second page, it would talk about how they cost less than $10, and it's one of the fastest growing parts of publishing. And also, later on near the end of the article, they say that graphic novels count for about 1/5 of the books that are checked out of libraries each year. So that's one of the popular trends in adolescent literature. I'd be curious to hear if you have read any graphic novels, what you think of them, and of course I will hear that or read that once you've gone to the library and looked one of them up. Okay, there's one other article that I want to talk about, and so if you could find the What's Happening in YA Literature Trends in Books for Adolescents, that is B5. Go ahead and pull that out and we'll take a look at that. Okay, I think I'm pretty clever. I have switched articles here, I think successfully, so hopefully you have found one that looks just like this and can follow along. Or, I don't know, maybe you can just look online and see it. One of the things that it mentions here, talking about the increased market, talking about the market of adolescent lit. And see, here's another one, materials that are targeted to teens. So they're marketed to teens. And that was part of our definition of adolescent lit. Notice that we've got another indicator of the rise in young adult literature is the introduction of 2 new YA book awards. The Michael L. Prince Award through the American Library Association for the best YA book of the year, and then one from Australia, which I don't know that we would necessarily concern ourselves with that. But anyway, robust activity in the area of adolescent literacy. This is an article that appeared in JAAL, which is the Journal of Adolescent and Adult Literacy, published by, it used to be the International Reading Association, now it's the International Literacy Association. What they wanted to do was take a survey of the literature that adolescents are reading. And in the second paragraph, they talk about even using non-print texts, websites, text messages, blogs, in addition to trade books and school texts. Let's see, looking at the body of literature published for today's teens. So there we have it. All right, what their goal is. This is the goal of the study that they're going to talk about. To what degree is adolescent lit fulfilling the needs of adolescents? In what arenas might available YA books contribute to adolescent literacy? And what gaps and needs remain? So basically, what are the characteristics of English language YA books currently being published? Procedures of the study. What did they do? Well, they're going to look at four different things, Genre. They're going to look at who. They're going to look at the what, the content, and they're also going to look at trends. And so what they did is they took books between 1999 2005, and they're focusing on some of the more popular bestsellers. And they started out with 370 titles, and after whittling them down, they had 59 titles that were considered representative of the corpus of 370 books, and used those 59 titles for their in-depth analysis. Okay, next page says that these 59 books were read, coded, and analyzed for patterns and trends, the following dimensions: genre, characters represented as far as culture and ethnicity, religion. Okay, here's something. GLBTQ, which means gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, questioning factors, and also representation of disabilities. Going back to the GLBTQ, this is one of the terms that we have on our list of vocabulary for adolescent lit. So if you are not familiar with that, sometimes you'll see all of those letters there. I've seen it where they leave out the Q, questioning, but the GLBTQ, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and questioning. Alright, content they also studied, and the narrative style and structure. And so after they decided what their study was going to be, then we have the findings. These are the results from now on. Okay, they talk about the genre. Table 2. Alright, contemporary realistic fiction is 28. And then on down. Fantasy, historical fiction, mystery. Notice that this article was published in 2009. I wonder if in 7 years, to what extent that has changed. Okay, the characters represented. Alright, notice that 6 of them were GLBTQ, whereas 53 were not. Disabilities, some there. Religions mentioned, and different ethnicities. Okay, so they go ahead and talk about the findings that they have, the different categories. And we have charts throughout here representing that. Okay, and you can take a look and see what they find out, what they found. Let's go down though to the overall trends. Okay, overall trends. Considering the corpus of books overall, results indicated that current YA literature is predominantly fiction, although there are some that are not, most often contemporary realistic fiction. The characters are primarily white European American, and there is a significant lack of focal multicultural characters, especially of lack of books that are culturally specific. I think that has changed, I really do. Or at least in the schools, and maybe this is teaching adolescent lit, so this is kind of a segue to the next thing that we're going to talk about. Teachers are overtly finding books that have different cultures and teaching those books. Okay, let's see over on this next column. Although not a new issue, bullying has become a topic at the forefront of current times and is a significant problem in teens' lives. So that's another thing that we talked about when we talked about trends in adolescent literature. Okay. Anyway, the findings, the implications, and then one last thing I wanted to point out. I don't know to what extent you look at bibliographies, but if you look at their references, all right, they've got 2 columns of secondary references, and then this literature cited, Okay, these are the books that they mention specifically in the article, and these would be primary sources. Right, again, going back to your list of terms, let's take a look at these. You'll notice on your list of top terms for AdLit, from the second row to the bottom, second row up, in the middle you have GLBTQ, and the reason this is such an emphasis is they say that teens are struggling with this and trying to figure this out. I think when you have a lot of media that just is pushing it down their throat, they see it on television and they hear about it all the time, and then here it's in what they read, probably makes people wonder. And obviously this is something that we would not be pleased with. Right next to it, on the right-hand column, second one from the bottom, you have primary sources and secondary sources. A primary source is an original source. And so when they're talking about literature cited, those are primary sources. Those are actual adolescent lit books. Now, secondary sources are more the idea of criticism. Oh my goodness, there's another one that we have on our list. But anyway, this is a second-hand opinion of others, and the purpose of a secondary source is to interpret a primary source. All right, they make comments, they study, analyze, just like this article does. And of course, they're quoting other people too, and backing up what they say with these secondary sources. So it could be journals, could be reference materials, people doing doctoral dissertations or theses. So anything that would not be a primary source could be considered a secondary source. And let's look in the first column, the third one down, is criticism. Criticism is not necessarily being critical, but it's the judgment using analysis and evaluation of the merits and faults on the work of another individual. It could be a study like this, an evaluation, an interpretation. So there we have another definition from our top terms for adolescent lit. Okay, this is the end of the first part where we talk about trends in adolescent literature. There are 6 trends. You don't have to know them in order, but you do have to know them and understand them.